Well, hello there. My name is Christopher Scott and I serve as a small groups pastor of a local church. And in this video, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the book of Revelation. Usually I do these introduction videos about 5 or 6 minutes in length. This one might go a little longer because Revelation is a complex book and there's a lot of differing views on it. So usually it's a 5 or 6 minute introduction, but we might go a little longer. So in this video, I'm going to give you an introduction to the book of Revelation, and I'm going to cover 6 basic things in this video. I'm going to talk about the author of the book, the audience that he was writing to, the date of the book, a key verse of the book, a key theme, and then give you a brief outline of the book here in Revelation. So let's go ahead and get started. So Revelation is the last book of the Bible. There's 66 books of the Bible. Revelation is the very last book that is a vision from John. Okay, that's the author of the book, is John. And this John that's talked about, John is actually mentioned specifically in chapter 1, verses 4, chapter 1, verse 9, and chapter 1, verse 1. So chapter 1, 1, 1, 4, and 1, 9 talks about John. And this John is the disciple of Jesus, John, who also wrote the Gospel of John, wrote 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, right? So this is his last of 5 different books of the Bible that we have by John, okay? And so that is, it's the disciple John, who also was the apostle John, who did ministry in Asia Minor, and who was exiled to the island of Patmos, where he received these visions and wrote them down, okay? So that's the author of the book. And if you're interested in more backgrounds on the author, I've got a link down there in the description to a blog post that I've written that clearly outlines why we believe John wrote the book, okay? The audience that it was written to are 7 churches in Asia Minor. Like I said, these are 7 churches that John likely was ministering to or pastoring to or overseeing. He had some type of relationship with them. And there's 7 churches along the popular and well-known Romans Road, right? It was a popular mail route. It was pretty easy to get to. It was just this kind of connection of cities that were linked together by a well-traveled road they called, the Romans Road. And so he writes this book or this letter back to these churches in Asia Minor, these 7 churches, right? He writes it to Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And those are the churches described in chapter 2 and chapter 3 that he writes to there. So it was, like I said, it was probably a mail route that, these people traveled among each other and could easily get there. And Paul likely did ministry along these people. And it's important to note, these 7 cities are all in ruins today except for the city of Smyrna, right? So Smyrna still stands, but the other 6 have been pretty much decimated and are leveled. So that's the audience that John was writing to, was the believers in Asia Minor, which is kind of modern day Turkey, right in that area roughly, okay? The date that John wrote this book and that he received these prophecies and these visions is probably one of the more controversial parts of this book, okay? So John wrote these prophecies down in 95 AD, right? 95 AD. So Jesus Christ likely was crucified and resurrected in 30 to 36 AD, somewhere in there. Scholars differ on the dates, but 30 to 36 AD. The Apostle Paul was martyred and killed in about 63 to 65 AD. And then John writes the Gospel of John in 90 AD, and then the book of Revelation in 95 AD. So that just gives you a little bit of a picture. The book of Revelation is the last book in the Bible, and it was the last book written in the Bible too, okay? And this date is important, and we know that John wrote the book of Revelation in 95 AD because there's this guy named Irenaeus, okay? Irenaeus was an early church father, and Irenaeus was a disciple of this guy named Polycarp, and Polycarp was a disciple of this guy named John, which was John that wrote the book of Revelation. So Irenaeus tells us that John wrote the book of Revelation towards the end of the Emperor Domitian's reign, right? Emperor Domitian. And I have a link down there about the date of the book that goes more into detail. And so Irenaeus says that John wrote this book of Revelation towards the end of Emperor Domitian's reign. And Emperor Domitian ended his reign in 90 to 96 AD, somewhere in there. So that's why we say that was when he wrote it, 95 AD. And this is important because there's some people who say, well, the book of Revelation was written in 65 AD, and it prophesies things that happened in 70 AD and shortly after. And this is an important point because if John didn't write it in 95, if John wrote the book in 95 AD, how could it be giving prophecies about things that happened 25 or 30 years earlier, right? So that's why I'm making a hard point on this date, is that we want to make sure we got the date down to help us properly understand what the book is saying, okay? So we wrote it in 95 AD, which we know from Irenaeus, who said that John wrote this book toward the end of Domitian's reign in 95 or 96 AD. Irenaeus was a disciple of Polycarp, and Polycarp was a disciple of John. So it's pretty close, pretty likely. And the date of 65 AD is a popular date that some people seem to think now. R.C. Sproul, who's passed away now, was a believer in the 65 date. There's a guy named Jeff Durbin from Apologia Church in Arizona, I believe. He's really big on the 65 date, but no one really has ever held that view or that date until about 1200 AD, right? So 1,000 years after this letter was written, people started to decide it was maybe written in 65 AD. It's always been believed it was 95 AD until 1,000 years later. So again, you can look at that link for more detail on that. But I'd stick to the 95 AD date. Okay. The key verses in the book, there's 2 key verses, and I'm leaning on some of Warren Wiersbe's commentary here. He has an excellent commentary on the book of Revelation called Be Victorious. I'll put a link down there in the description to it if you want to get it. It is an affiliate link on Amazon, so if you purchase it, I do get a small commission, so you know. So Wiersbe talks about how there's 2 key verses in the book of Revelation. One is chapter 1, verse 19, which kind of provides the outline for the book, right? So chapter 1, verse 19, it says, "Write down what you have seen, both the things that are happening now and the things that will happen." Write down what you've seen, both the things that are happening now and the things that will happen, right? So that's a key verse to the book, because it's, John talks about what he sees now, chapters 2 and 3, and then he talks about the future, pretty much starting in chapter 6, the things that will happen in the future, okay? So that's the key verse. Wiersbe also provides Revelation 17:14 as a key verse, which is interesting. I've never heard of this being a key verse to the book, but it does make sense. It says, "Together they will go to war against the Lamb." This is talking about the prostitute and the evil that's going on in the book of Revelation. "Together they will go to war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will defeat them because he is Lord of all lords and King of all kings. And his called and chosen and faithful ones will be with him." And that's the idea, that Christ is victorious. In Christ we are overcomers, right? That we will defeat Satan and the false prophet and the Antichrist, the false trinity, Satan, the false prophet, and the Antichrist, the false trinity. We will defeat that false trinity through Jesus Christ because we are overcomers. So those are the key verses. And then the theme is Jesus Christ is victor, right? He is our victor. And I've got a link down there. There's some more themes in the book: animals, numbers, things like that, angels, if you want to look at those blog posts. And then an outline of the book, I'm using again Wiersbe's outline. When I like to study books of the Bible or I do a verse by verse study, I like to make a copy of the outline that he provides, and then I laminate it, and I keep this in front of me as I facilitate Bible studies. It's a really good tool to kind of help you understand the whole book together and help you better understand specific verses and passages within the book. So the outline that Wiersbe provides, he says, chapter 1 are the things which thou hast seen. These are the things which John has seen. Chapters 2 and 3, these are the things which are, right? So chapter 1 is the things that John has seen. Chapter 2 is things that are now. And then chapters 4 through 22 are the things in the future, right? And that's an outline based on Revelation 1:19, right? These are the things which I've seen, chapter 1. These are the things which are happening now, chapters 2 and 3. And these are things that will happen in the future, chapters 4 through 22. So I hope this was a helpful video for you as an outline for the book of Revelation. I pray that it is a good book for you to study and that you enjoy and profit from. If you're interested to do some studies of it, I encourage you to get the commentary by Warren Wiersbe. There's also a great verse-by-verse study that he provides with questions and things like that you can get also. So thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to this channel and get updates on future videos, you can just subscribe up there, or you can find other introductions to other books of the Bible up there. If you want to learn to do a verse-by-verse Bible study using the Wiersbe guides or other ones, I got some of those videos over there. And then if you want some other small group facilitator tips, how to facilitate a small group, I got it over there. Thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you again soon on another video.